So yeah, this kind of perfectly segues into the next question, which is how did you get your first job and what did it take?
So, are we talking about like our first like full-time job or like are we talking about internships?
Yeah, so maybe connect. We'll break it into two questions. How did your maybe internship? Well, the first question is like it's for most people, it's like really, really scary. Like when they're in college and they don't have any connections, they're like, how do I get a job? Right?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really scary for me to try and figure that out. So first off, like how do you even get into like when you're like making connections and you feel like okay, maybe I'll even be able to this will even be a possibility, which I know that's most of the time starts with an internship. So first off, yeah, maybe how did that happen for you? And then how did that turn into a job, which in which
Okay.
you were like, okay, now I'm taking off.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm just trying to figure out how to rephrase it. I'm looking for it. So my first official hmm,
Experience,
my
whatever it
first
was.
yeah. Yeah, my first experience in the world of like filmmaking um began when I was like in my senior year of high school. I was great grateful enough to receive this opportunity to intern at this documentary center called the Maisels Documentary Center up in Harlem. They It's an amazing place where they make like these nonprofit programs for for New Yorkers to learn how to tell a story and that their voice matters. And it was just this amazing experience. And while there, I learned a bunch of different things, and it truly helped me like grow and realize I really love editing. It was there where I discovered like I found editing to be like puzzle pieces, just trying to fit together this
Mm.
massive grand scope picture. And that that piqued my interest. And once I did that, I was like, oh, this might be something I want to do in the future. And then I had to make a decision about my future, like directly after that. And I tried to go to a film college, and I had a really bad college advisor, and she led me down a path that made me believe that I was attending film college or college that had a major in film, but it was just a college that offered like one or two film classes. So I was forced to do that, pay for a school I didn't necessarily want to go to, or a school that wasn't necessarily in my plans, and I couldn't afford college all by myself. So I sadly had to take a break from that. And that led me to reach back out to my film program and ask them, hey, what should I do? I'm young. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared. I'm
Your
a college.
your high school film program?
Yeah. Yeah. So I reached out to my high school film program, and I was just like, hey, I'm scared. I don't know what I should be doing. No one's really giving me directions. There's no how-to guide on this. What do you think I should do? What do you think my options could be? And they're like, oh, well, we're really trying to get a lot of our alumni into like on sets and stuff like that. So you're like, hey, how would you like to be a PA? And I was just like, oh, I've never been a PA before. Was it required? And they're like, oh, you just have to stay on sets for like 12 to 19 hours a day, maybe 20 hours if you want to work on that set. Uh, um, and that really opened a lot of doors up to me. And thankfully, I would take these internships on when they needed a person for a day or two, and I I thankfully had the option of working on so many like internships and so many projects, and that ultimately became me then putting my name out there and me like um, networking with other PAs to get on other shows. And then it'd be like, hey, Javon, do you want to come work on the Deuce? And I'm like, oh, I don't know what the Deuce is. No, I don't want to work on it. And which isn't a lie. It's actually like I didn't know what the Deuce was, and I and I said no. And yeah, pretty bad decision. But thankfully, I had the option to choose because I worked with so many great people, and it ultimately led me down the path of like working on different like shows and TV shows and films. And I eventually like got to the point where I had created enough, I guess, work that I could like create my own IMDb and just use that to leverage myself as well, and be like, hey, these are, when people look me up or do a background check on me, they're like, oh yeah, you've done XYZ, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. And they're like, oh, what do you think about this? And after doing a bunch of things, it ultimately made me think about like college again, because I lived with my mother for a very long time, and every day I would have to hear, when are you going back to college, when you're going back to college, when you're going back to college, and I'm like, I can't afford it. And that made me slip a little bit in my career, and I had to go back to my film program and be like, hey, my mom is telling me XYZ, what should I do? And they told me, if you want to keep doing this path, you can keep doing it. And they would like be like, hey, we know this great person, and then they would keep recommending me for things, until I got to work on this show called The Vow. It's this like great like HBO documentary about a business.
A cult. It's like a cult, right?
Yeah, it's people were lured into this idea of how to better their life and how to better their business and their social status, and then they joined a cult without knowing it. And while working on that show, I worked my ass off, and that ultimately turned into like a full-time office PA job that like really propelled me in my career. That was a long-winded answer, so I apologize.
Yeah, that's good. Your film program connected you to be a PA on something.
My very first job was an internship with the Maisels Documentary Center, where I was
Well, yeah, but that was no, after that. That was elementary.
Yeah, it was elementary.
When you reached back out to your film program.
Yeah.
Cool. And then they were like, let's go to the Deuce, and you were like being all wholesome. You're like, I don't want to contribute to the vile of society.
No, I didn't even know. When
I'm just kidding.
my film program recommends me stuff, they don't really tell me what the project is. They just give me a name, and I'm just like, I don't know. Or maybe I'll be lucky enough to get a synopsis. But often I don't, or often I get fake names as well.
Yeah.
On the production, like that was the case with, I worked on the morning show, the Apple TV show, and a code name and all that. I don't even know if I should say that.
No, I mean that everyone, productions have code names sometimes. Yeah. But that's interesting. So was like by the name or the synopsis, like you maybe thought about not doing it or whatnot, and you maybe thought that in hindsight you thought that was a mistake?
Yeah, I thought that it wasn't not that it wasn't worth my time, but like it wasn't something I recognized. Like I think it was like right when the Deuce was starting, and I wasn't really watching HBO, so I had no clue what was coming out, what was anything. So
that's what she said, I guess.
Yeah. I guess so. So yeah, I didn't really know what it was about. I didn't know if it could be this big thing. And I often say no to like cool projects for other opportunities. Like I got offered the Pale Blue Horse. It's like this it's Christian Bale's movie on Netflix. I got offered that, but I turned it down to be on the Pentaveret. So there's often cases where I'm like turning down certain roles for other roles because I feel a level of comfortability in staying in what I'm doing, opposed to going to something I don't know.
Oh, okay. So you feel like you've always had those options though, instead of like kind of just saying yes to whatever the next thing that comes.
I won't say that. At the end of the day, there was a time where I didn't have a plethora of options. I was just like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I often had to go, oh, I know this key PA. He was great, and he and I had a bond, and I was just like, maybe I can reach out to him and be like, hey man, I'm so interested in working in film. I know I took a break for a little bit, but I'd love to hop back into it. And he'd be like, yeah, I'll keep your name in mind. And then the next week he'd be like, hey man, do you want to work on City on the Hill? And I'm like, yeah, with like Kevin Bacon, yeah, that'd be sick. I'd love to work on that. And then I go to like Yonkers, and I'll be an additional for a day or something like that.
Yeah.